बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम। ये ठीक है। अच्छा। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम। Thanks for joining today. I am Tahir Kamar, Director for Outreach and Infrastructure. With me and my host is Dr. Mahmood Qureshi, Vice President, Disaster Relief, USA, and distinguished guest, Dr. Naib Amir, USA, Dr. Fahim Yunus Qureshi. Under the guidance of Hazur Sayyidullah bin Aziz, Humanity First International, Humanity First USA, and all other HF countries have launched a global appeal for ceasefire and humanitarian aid for the people of Palestine. As a part of the awareness appeal, Humanity First USA is holding this live session today. But as a tradition of Jamaat, we will start our program with the silent prayers, and I will request our Naib Amir, Dr. Fahim Yunus Qureshi Sahib, to lead us in prayers. Dr. Sir.
Please join me in silent prayers. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ameen.
Jazakallah. Dr. Mahmood Qureshi Sahib, please kindly explain what program.
Yeah, Jazakallah, Tahir Kamar Sahib and Dr. Fahim Yunus Sahib for joining and giving us your precious time. So just for the awareness of the folks, our program today is going to start with comments by Dr. Fahim Yunus Sahib talking about the situation in Gaza and Palestine and how it impacts us and why is it important to talk about the Palestinians who are suffering. And then we're going to show a presentation video from Dr. Aziz Hafiz Saab, who's the chairman of Humanity First UK and has been overseeing the work in Gaza for the last 2 years. Then we're going to show a historical perspective of why it is important to know the history of Israel and Gaza and Palestine. And then we're going to have some comments from Imam Azhar Hanif Sahib, Naib Amir, MD Muslim Community USA, on the war and how people should be treated during the war according to Islam. And then he's going to show us a video and a poem advocating for the cause of Palestinians. During this event, we would request you to donate, if possible, at usa.humanityfirst.org. This program is educational, it's advocating for the Palestinian cause, as well as raising funds that we can use afterwards. So with this, I'm going to go to my esteemed Naib Amir, Dr. Fahim Yunus Sahib. If you could please give us your perspective of how you see the plight of Palestinians and what can we do and what guidance do you give us in this regard?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, my dear friends, colleagues. Honored to be here today. It's a very depressing, difficult situation, and I'm not going to repeat everything you're already hearing on the media, but I think let's address the elephant in the room. I was reading something this morning where people said, why help the Palestinians when they're going to get bombed anyway? People are very pessimistic even about this ceasefire, and His Holiness Khalifatul Masih has repeatedly shared that with us in his sermons, how the voices for peace are getting marginalized, how United Nations is getting marginalized. People are asking what will happen after these 4 days of ceasefire, and really questioning out of that despair, why help? So I thought that's the elephant in the room. And as Muslims, I would humbly like to remind everyone that we're actually not even helping Palestinians or ourselves. Our transaction is not with Humanity First, with a person on the border somewhere. Our transaction is with God. So this is the fundamental point, that what are we being asked to do in this very difficult situation? where nearly 14,000 human beings, helpless human beings, have been bombed in front of our eyes. Almost 8,000 children have died. 1.7 million people have been displaced from their homes. This is literally, you can use the word genocide, you can use the word apartheid, crazy things happening in front of our eyes. Because if you start thinking, my help must change the reality tomorrow, then you'll get depressed and you won't do anything. But every drop matters. So what can we do, what we should do? That's the core tenet of Islam and Ahmadiyyat is prayers. Al-Khalifatul Masih is saying, dedicate one sajda, one prostration every day for the plight of Palestinians. You know, and many a times we pray for our own children. Imagine if this was my child in Gaza today. That's the intensity of prayer. It's the quality of the prayer that matters. Imagine if my child was there on a college trip and this all happened while my child was there. What will be my intensity of prayer? And second, our community, alhamdulillah, in US has already written more than 7,000 letters to the president, to the congressman. We raise voice. We believe that matters. And today is the third major thing is Humanity First, where we contribute, whether it's $10, $100, or $100,000. That's your transaction between you and God. And I feel the thing it changes, I don't know. No one can guarantee what will it change in Gaza. What it will change is in your heart, you will know that I put my money where my mouth was. When this was happening, whatever I could afford, I participated. I was not some of those people who were just doing Monday morning quarterbacking, who were doing armchair philosophy, sitting on the sideline. I'm not blessed enough to be on the ground in Gaza, but the members of Humanity First who are doing that, at least I can help them, empower them. Those are just my short thoughts, Mahmood Sahib.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much, Dr. Fahim Yunus, for your precious time and your very precious comments. And we appreciate the support from our members. You can go and do that by going to www.usa.humanityfirst.org. Meanwhile, what I want to say is that we can deliver in Gaza and Palestine. The reason why we say that is because for the last 2 years, we have been serving that place and that country. And to prove that, we have a video from the chairman of Humanity First UK, Dr. Aziz Hafiz Saab. He's going to tell us what's been going on in Gaza for the last 2 years.
Humanity First has been supporting the humanitarian needs in the occupied Palestinian territories for a number of years. I'm just going to share with you some of the work that is ongoing at the moment. As you're all aware, 97% of the water in Gaza is unfit to drink. And as a result, this puts a massive burden on the population within Gaza. At Humanity First, we've partnered up with our good friends at ANERA and have been able to fund water desalination reverse osmosis units. These use state-of-the-art osmosis technology to be able to provide clean, fresh drinking water to tens of thousands of people. These are sustainable solutions that run on solar power. Another area where the population suffers immensely is health. The health sector is under immense pressure. Even at the best of times, it's under extreme pressure, and currently, as you know, the system is pretty much collapsed as a result of the ongoing war. Humanity First have been able, over the last number of years, to provide medical support in the form of intravenous medication, intravenous fluids, anesthetics, dialysis filters for children's dialysis machines, as well as oxygen to supply hospitals and clinics. Another area is agriculture. Food security is a major issue in the Gaza Strip, and again, working with ANERA, we've been able to fund roof gardens These are gardens based on polytunnels in the limited space that's available there, in many cases on people's property roofs. This allows a family, a vulnerable family, not only to grow fruit and vegetables for their own use, but they're able to then sell these in the open market to provide a vital income to support their family. People with learning difficulties are under extreme pressure and extreme challenges in most situations in the world. However, in Gaza, this is further exacerbated due to the lack of resources and due to the humanitarian situation in the Strip. We at Humanity First have been able to provide a state-of-the-art IT lab for the visually impaired in North Gaza. This is a Braille technology that allows those people with visual impairment to access the outside world over the World Wide Web, and also be able to print using Braille printers. Therefore, they're able to engage with wider society and gain their independence. This facility is not only for the students, but also for the wider public. Unemployment is a major concern, with nearly 50% of the Gaza Strip being unemployed. We've been able to support with business development grants, again with our partners ANERA, where with a grant given to a poor family, they've been able to either set up a business that they can work with, or to expand an existing small enterprise, just to allow them to support their families, support their food needs, and support the education of their children. In the West Bank, we currently do blood donation drives to again support the health sector, as well as vocational training courses, again to bring people into the employment sector. So this is a high-level overview of some of the work that we've been able to carry out, and some of the work that we've been able to do alongside trusted partners. I would urge you all to look at the needs across the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. It's very clear to the world the huge humanitarian needs across many sectors: health, agriculture, water, sanitation, health. So I'd ask you to all please dig deep, help support Humanity First, help support Humanity First Palestine and its supporters around the world to be able to help the innocent civilian population of Gaza and the West Bank. Thank you.
People have listened to Dr. Aziz Saib. This is one of the burning questions we have from all the donors and ambassadors always asked. Are we providing any help in Palestine? I think this is a good segment from that perspective, that people know that how we are supporting that. Do you want to have any comment on that?
Absolutely. So this tells you that Humanity First has been supporting people of Gaza, as you saw, with the help of desalination plants, water wells, also with the healthcare, with the schools. We can provide help directly and indirectly, with working with our reliable partners like ANERA, which has been helping us provide care in Gaza. So with this in mind, when you donate to Humanity First for this cause, we can deliver based on the comments that Dr. Aziz Hafiz has made, and we have partnerships in place where we can support the people of Gaza as we go forward. But what I also want to mention is that for awareness and education of our viewers, we want to give you a historic perspective on the Palestine and Israel. And in 1947, Israel wasn't there. And at that time, the Jewish people were really poorly treated in a horrible way by the Nazi Germanies, and many of them migrated to Palestine. And then through United Nations, Israel was created. But I want to give you a historical perspective as mentioned by Chaudhry Muhammad Zafrullah Khan, who was the first foreign minister of Pakistan, and he was advocating for the Palestinians in 1947 at the Forum of United Nations. So we're going to share this comment. It may not be the best video, but the words are powerful.
The United Nations is today on its trial. The world is watching. It will see how it acquits itself. There have been few periods in history when members of the Jewish race have not been persecuted in some part or the other of Europe. Since the end of the First World War, Palestine has taken over 400,000 Jewish immigrants. Since the start of the Jewish persecution in Nazi Germany, Palestine has taken almost 300,000 Jewish refugees. Those who talk loudest of humanitarian principles and can afford to do most have done the least at their own expense to alleviate this question. But they are ready, indeed they are anxious, to be most generous at the expense of the Arab world. Shall they be distributed among the member states according to their capacity to receive them? Australia, an overpopulated small country with congested areas, says, oh no. Canada, equally congested and overpopulated, says no. United States, very humanitarian, small area, small resources, says, oh no. That is their contribution to the humanitarian principle. But let them go into Palestine. Vast areas, large economy, no trouble. They can easily be taken in there. Let them go into Palestine. In effect, the proposal before the United Nations Assembly says, we shall decide. Not you, not the people of Palestine. No question of self-determination. You shall never belong to your people. What authority have UN to do this? What legal authority? What juridical authority have they to do this?
So, Imam, we have Imam Hazar Hanif Saab, Naib Amir, Ahmadiyya Muslim Community USA with us at this time. And we just saw this historical video from 1947. And Imam Saab, with the current crisis in Gaza and the way the Gazans are being treated during this war, I wanted to get your perspective on what's the correct way, according to Islam, that people should be treated during war. And then any other comments that you might have about this.
Yes, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace and blessings upon all the viewers of this program. This actual date in history on which we're having this global telethon has aligned itself with the history of this conflict that led to the creation of the state of Israel and the partition that we talked about that never took place. And the 26th of November, 1947, it's an amazing date. If on that date, what the delegates to the UN had already decided was they will not vote in favor of the creation of a state for Palestine, for Israel. That was the outcome of the speech you just heard from Chaudhry Zafar Khan Sahib, who just a few days earlier, by divine decree, not by chance, this companion of Promised Messiah was sent to New York as the UN delegate from Pakistan, stood in the assembly in October and November and delivered such powerful addresses, such pertinent legal mind that he had for the issue of the day. Many of the countries decided they will not vote in favor of this creation of a state, a homeland for the Jews. And yet what happened? It was this very weekend that we're now celebrating in America, Thanksgiving weekend. Once the US side realized the vote was not going in their favor, what they did was they applied for adjournment of that session and canceled the vote. And as Chaudhry Zafar Khan Sahib, he has detailed in his own narrations about this history. He said, I left that night feeling at ill ease because I knew now the pressure was going to be mounted against these other states. And it's exactly what happened. When they came back after this Thanksgiving holiday recess, on the 28th of November, they had the vote. And after the vote, he said the ambassador from Haiti came to him with tears streaming down his face saying, I'm sorry, I would have voted my conscience, but there was so much pressure on me and on Philippines and on so many other states, and they all caved into that pressure, and they voted for this state being created for the Jewish people under the context that this is a land without a people, for a people, the Jews, who had not had land for centuries. And that whole premise has been rejected by Chordi Saab in his beautiful addresses. And he said, basically, number one, the UN had no authority, absolutely none. They weren't given authority to create independent states. They were given authority to create self-determination, independence, and justice. And so all these things were dismissed. And I say today, think about it. If 76 years ago on this very date, the world had been able to sit in that UN assembly and vote their conscience, we would not have to have this conversation today. All the wars, all the destruction, all the upheavals in the world that's spilled into nations around, it would have ended. It would not have taken place. And this is what he was warning then. And this is why it's so important to continue the advocacy now. Because until this issue is solved, the Middle East can't be at peace. And as our beloved Khalifa Masih the fifth, may Allah strengthen him with his mighty help always, has been warning the world. This can escalate, this fire can spread, and it can engulf all the world. He said even the superpowers who are sitting far away, such as Europe and America. So the issue is really affecting all of us. This is not a Palestinian issue. It's not a Gaza issue. It's not a Arab or Muslim issue. It is a world issue that was discussed 76 years ago on this very date. And the world was ready to acknowledge that, yes, there's a better solution forward. And it is not this one that we're proposing. So today, what I say to people is, we don't want a cessation. Cessation of the conflict right now for 4 days or 10 days is not going to solve our problem. We want a solution, not a cessation. And that's what people are marching and protesting and screaming loud and far and wide to all the world, that we need a solution to this because it keeps coming up. It's not the first time. Think about all what Dr. Fahim Yunus mentioned. 1.45 million people were displaced in the last few weeks. Over 5,000 children were killed. 15,000 were killed overall, and of them, they say 7,000 already are missing. They don't even know. That figure's not complete because they're buried under what we see as the scenes of rubble. And it's in this that we say that there has to be a better solution forward, and thus, I agree. We must all once again become advocates like Chordi Khan Sahib and speak to this truth to anyone and everyone we can as advisors, because it's affecting all of us. Now, this program today, alhamdulillah, we're rightfully at a moment where we have to talk about not just the history, but the reality, the ground reality, as you mentioned, Dr. Qureshi Saab. The ground reality is it's total indiscriminate warfare going on now. And if this had been Russia doing the same to Ukraine, what would the world be doing today? They would be screaming, this is injustice, this is cruel, this is inhumane, the way you're indiscriminately bombing and destroying, and the whole world will be sanctioning that party, whoever that may be, as they're doing against Russia. If this had been China invading Taiwan, what the world would be doing? They'd be raising their voices. So why is the world silent and complicit in this human crisis that's going on? Not scenes that we're getting after the fact, or we're getting reports later on. We're watching this live nowadays, living 24/7. Turn on any of these broadcasts, you'll see what's going on social media. And the world has been pushed into silence. So what Azur is saying, this is not a time for silence. We must raise our voices, because Islam has always said there are rules. Even if you're forced into war, you must keep humanity first, as is the name of the organization. Humanity dies when the human being ceases to be compassionate toward other human beings. So Islam is basically, you have, a love for God, but compassion for humanity. That makes you a believer in all faiths, all religions. And when that dies, you can do what you see happening right now in the Middle East, Because if it's not dead, there's no way you can do this. All the scenes we're seeing, there's absolutely no way a human being can watch those scenes and saying, my God, how can they be doing that? Bombing schools, bombing hospitals, bombing places, shelters, bombing places of worship, bombing civilian populations where the houses are today, they're sleeping at night and it falls down on their head, right? This cannot be an act of a just war. And so again, we must raise our voices against this. Islam says you cannot attack children, cannot attack women, and can only fight against those who are the warring, the combatants themselves, right? I know that our time is short here, but thinking about recently, this past week, the UNICEF chief has said something about Gaza that was really striking when I read it. She said that for children, the most dangerous place in the world right now is the Gaza Strip. Think about that statement. All the conflicts taking place in the world, and there are many, of all the places where children are being deprived of basic necessities of life, water, food, shelter, everything. She says this is the most dangerous. And in a short period, a span of time, children have been forced into such a state of pressure. You can't imagine that pressure cooker, that they're waking up with no sense of tomorrow, because today and every night, they don't go to sleep and close their eyes. They go to sleep as if it's 4th of July, just the huge blast all around them and the threat of death in front of them. This is a complete human tragedy unfolding before our eyes, especially for children. As I said, 5,000 plus already have been killed, and the numbers of those buried in the rubble, we don't know. But the prospect of them coming out, even if they're alive, think of the mental consequence of this. Dr. Qureshi Saab, he understands this from a medical perspective. They call it PSTD, post-trauma stress disorder. Someone said in this case, there's no post-trauma because it's ongoing. They never have a respite. This war has happened before, years before. It keeps on going. So when will this generation of children ever have peace in their life? Ever have a moment where they're post-trauma stress? It's ongoing. So again, we must advocate for them. And in this sense, I saw a scene again that was shared widely on social media, a young girl who was being pulled out of the rubble after one of these bombings. And she was asking this question, am I being taken to the grave, to the cemetery? And that scene was so shocking and so horrific for any human being, any parent, any sibling, any person, again, to see this. And I wanted to show that video clip. And while you're watching this, I wanted to read a poem that a young lady here in the US, Farhat Mahmoud, she wrote this poem in memory of thinking of this particular visual as it played out. So as you're watching it, I would like to read her poem for us to think about the crisis that's facing the children particularly, and the women, which is the most population in Gaza. She says, as a girl is pulled from the rubble, her limbs feeling weak, her childhood in trouble, she asks the men who have dug her out, am I dead or alive? How have you pulled me out? Are you taking me to the cemetery? One man replies, dear child, you are alive and as beautiful as the moon. But who can calm her raging mind? She only thinks of all this doom. Oh, children of Palestine, if only you were not running alone on this torn and dusty street, ducking from shooting guns, falling bombs, and shrapnel at your feet. If only you were holding your mother's hands and asking, are you taking me to the park? Or to play with pebbles on a calm beach? Are you taking me to school where I can giggle with my friends and my teacher will teach? Are you bringing me home to your hot meal, your safety, your warm embrace, your soft speech? Oh, children of Palestine, and the children of all conflicts around the world, we have stolen your childhood, and into adulthood we have you hurled. No child should ever ask the haunting question that we cannot mask. Are you taking me to the cemetery? Are you taking me to the cemetery?
Imam Sahib, this is extremely powerful, and there's no words beyond that, but prayers. And I'm going to request you to lead us in a closing prayer on this somber occasion.
Yes, please, let's pray definitely for the suffering of those who are suffering, and for all of us to live up to the highest standards of humanity, to pray for them, to help them, and to give them the support they need at this moment of desperation, and prevent this from escalating and affecting all of us in our lives in the near future. Please, let's raise our hands and offer prayers together. Bismillah ar-Rahman. Ameen. Allahumma ameen.
Jazakallah Hasan Jazak. So, folks, we're going to now transition to the live program that's coming from Humanity First International. You will see that on this link. Meanwhile, we are asking for your support by going to www.usa.humanityfirst.org. Jazakallah for all the viewers for joining us today. Thank you.
Jazakallah, everyone.